Hi, Rosie here from Life is Short magazine, and today I'm talking to Sharon Kilby, who upped and moved from the UK and did the big move with her family to Tuscany, and she's going to tell you how you can do it too. Hi Sharon, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, good. How's Tuscany?
Very, very hot, slightly sticky, and better off staying indoors at the moment.
Okay. Okay, so Sharon, you did two big changes in your life. You first of all, you were living the corporate lifestyle with your husband, you've two kids, and you were sending your son off to nursery and that, and then you decided to actually start your own business in the UK. So we're going to talk about that first. And then you upped and moved everybody to Tuscany. So what was the decision to actually step out of the corporate lifestyle where you could buy everything you wanted and that sort of thing? What was the decision there?
Um, well, I mean, the life was very, very busy. We both had very high incomes, but we were out all day doing the job, and we didn't have any time to do the stuff outside the job. So it was sort of fairly miserable, really. And there was one point where I dropped Archie, our son, when he was a baby at nursery, and then I followed a car full of children, obviously going somewhere on a nice day out, and I felt fairly annoyed and thought this has got to change. I'm going to do something about it because at the end of the day, we were working very, very hard, earning quite reasonable wages, but that was being spent on travel, on childcare, and it was crazy. We were earning money that we were never seeing, so we decided we'd change that.
So you were just sort of earning money to actually pay for things to facilitate you to go to work, really.
Exactly. And it seemed to be indoctrinated in people of my age at that time. You would have your children and then you would go back to work full time, and then you would pay for the childcare so that you could do that. And it was just a circle of tiredness, actually. And it wasn't much fun for anybody. So we decided that, there's got to be a better way to earn a crust and to carry on with your life.
So how did you make the decision? Did you sit down with Gary, or was it just you saying, I'm not having any more of this? Like, what was the decision process?
Well, at the end of the day, we've always been best friends as well as sort of husband and wife. So, we do everything together. That sounds a bit cheesy, but,
Oh,
any
it's
great
lovely.
ideas or plans, it would be the two of us doing it. And he was miserable in his job. I was miserable in my job. And we had actually gathered skills in those jobs, which we realized we were quite good at. I realized accidentally that I was okay at writing, and therefore why was I writing for somebody else that didn't really appreciate it that much? And also, why could I not use those skills to earn money that was not filtered, that came straight to us, rather than through a large corporation or through an employer? So I decided, well, Gary and I, between us, decided that why don't we start trying to earn money outside of our jobs and seeing how it went.
Okay, so you set up a writing and PR company as such, was that right?
Yeah, I mean, I was working as a PR account director for a reasonable sized sort of marketing company, and I discovered accidentally that I was really quite enthusiastic about certain things, and certain clients floated my boat a lot more than others. So I realized that I quite enjoyed writing about interior design. I quite enjoyed writing about furniture design and gardens. And I built up a really good rapport with some journalists and thought, actually, I don't mind doing this for a job. This is quite fun. And I seem to be doing okay at it. And so I reduced my hours within my employment, down to, I think, 4 days a week, and then had a day free where I started to develop a freelance career.
Okay, so you stepped into it gradually, so it wasn't like a
At
big
first,
leap, yeah. And then you took the big leap and set up, and
yeah.
Gary stepped out of his business as well, didn't he? He came into business with
He
you, as such.
He did. It was a bit later on. At that time, Gary was working as oh gosh, where you do corporate entertainment and corporate fun days and things like that. So he was taking large groups of executives out onto Dartmoor and putting them through their paces so they could do bonding and team building and all that stuff. And there was actually quite a lot of PR related to that role. So I started freelancing and found a few nice little clients and then very, very quickly ditched my day job.
Okay, great.
Very quickly, probably within 3 months.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so you did that, and then you could spend more time at home. Although you're now an entrepreneur, so you were probably working 70 hours a
Yeah.
week to stop working for somebody for 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
That's what I find with entrepreneurs. But
True.
at least you were at home with your
Yeah.
kids. Did you have two
Yeah.
children at that stage?
No, we had Archie at the
Okay,
time and he
okay.
was 2 and he's nearly 13 now.
Oh, okay. So you worked away at that, and then probably a lot of your work was online, was it? Like as technology developed, you could do a lot
Actually, back then, so you're talking, over 10 years ago, things were very different. There wasn't so much online communication. I would have to have monthly meetings with clients. Even press releases were sent out in the post
Ooh.
with pictures stuck on them. So there was no emailing of big pictures. We had to send out CDs of things to
Uh-huh.
contact. It's quite different. 10 years ago, things were
Yeah.
very, very different. But I did establish a good sort of
Rapport with.
creative but hectic home office. So Archie still went to nursery, but only in the mornings for 3 hours.
Right.
Okay. I crammed in as much work as I could in that time. And then he was home for the afternoon. And then as he got a little older, our business took off. And so Gary ditched the job that he was doing and came on board because I trusted him. And we always worked quite well together.
Okay. So then, how did you make the decision then to take the leap, move to Tuscany, or why did you make that decision? What was the process there?
Well, having children did change things. In other words, how we looked at what we wanted to do. We became less shallow, probably, and we wanted less stuff. And we just enjoy, being with the children and doing, just chilling out. Moving to Tuscany many years ago, probably 16 years ago, Gary worked in Italy. I visited him. This is pre-children. We loved it. We loved the way that Italian children had a childhood. They were welcomed in all restaurants. You lived as a family together. And the real simple pleasures were very important. And that really resonated with us. And so back in the back of our minds, we always had this idea that if it was financially possible or we could live and work in Tuscany, then we'd give it a go.
Okay, and that happened. So when was about 7 years ago you made the leap?
Well, we made the decision to come to Italy it was always there, but probably about 8 years ago. Yeah. Our daughter Tabby is now 8.5. So when she was about 6 months old, we came to Italy on a holiday. I brought the laptop with me and Gary, my husband, and the 2 children went off for a long rambling walk in the olive groves of where we were staying. I was on my laptop working because I had some deadlines to meet and I watched them disappear off into the olive grove through this little window. It sounds very romantic. And then I worked solidly for 2 hours and I was also studying some exams then. I was studying horticulture as well. And so I had to study for the exam and I had to hit some deadlines and I worked really kind of in a focused way for a couple of hours. Did it, sent off the stuff I needed to, turned the computer off, either made a coffee or poured a glass of wine and watched them walk back up the olive grove. And I thought, we can do this. We can work from anywhere as long as we're moderately organised.
Okay, so that was your realization that being able to do stuff online, you could actually work from anywhere. So you could have what would you say, an office-free sort of business, okay, to support your lifestyle.
I've got my office in a bag behind me. I have a It's my hot desk office bag, okay? And I will show you if you want me to in a minute. I will
Yeah.
lift it up and show you. But I can work from my little study, or I can work from, I'm in my bedroom right now because it's cooler. I can work from outside on the table with beautiful views if I'm not being eaten by mosquitoes. Or if I really need to go and clear my head, I take my little hot desk office bag, which has all the details of the projects I'm working on at the moment, and I can just disappear wherever, to the side of a swimming pool or to the library or to a coffee bar.
Fantastic. Okay. So did you have to sell a house? Did you have loads of savings? Did you win the lotto, or were you running from a criminal gang or something that actually made the
Obviously,
change?
we were multimillionaires but decided to leave all the money to a dog's home. No, that's not true. We just had an income. We didn't have any savings. In reality, we did have family that were living in Italy who could give us some guidelines and some help because they'd been inspired by our dream to move to Italy, and that they decided to do it earlier. So we weren't just moving on our own. We had good friends and family members in Italy who could help us
Uh-huh.
find schools, things like that. Other than that, we had no savings, no financial help from anybody. We had built our own business up to a level where the lifestyle of living in Italy was actually not going to be any more expensive. If anything, it was going to be cheaper. We didn't sell a house because we'd sold a house many years ago and we'd been renting since. So we weren't cash rich. We had no savings. What we did have was a flipping great bag of enthusiasm. And that was that.
Okay. So you gave up your rented place in the
Yeah.
UK, and then you moved over to Tuscany. So
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
So tell us a bit about that process and
Well, what we
re-
did was I came in after our trip to Tuscany, where I'd watched the guys disappear off on their walk, and I'd done some work and realised it was possible. Sorry, I just need the desk. I started looking for properties that we could rent in Italy, and I spent hours on the internet and hours on the telephone, contacting random people, and narrowed it down to I think four houses. And I came out with Archie, who was six at the time, five or six, and it was important that he chose the house.
okay.
He
So
chose where we were going to live.
so you involved the
And
children in it. Okay.
of God, yeah, because Tabitha was too little, she was a baby, but Archie was going to pick where we were going to live. And we looked at various farmhouses, ridiculous apartments. Some Italian families welcomed us with open arms. Others saw a sort of money, opportunity. But we did find somewhere, a beautiful house. It was very rustic, great fun with the electricity and water over the years. But it was a brilliant starting point. It was a good location with some village schools and everything you could possibly need. And that we took that rental on. And the rental in England overlapped with the one in Italy, which gave us a breathing space of about 3 months to physically move over. It was a bit of a costly exercise, but it was worth having that kind of 3 month changeover period.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went gradually. You didn't have to pack up the car with everybody in it and then move, or is that what you
Well, we
did?
did. What we did was we took the rental in Italy from September, handed in our notice in England, and in November, Gary and a friend of ours drove a truck with all our belongings to Italy.
Wow.
And Archie and Tabitha and I stayed in the house in England with no furniture for 6 weeks. And, and with 6 weeks, which was great fun washing jeans and stuff by hand in the freezing cold in Devon for 6 weeks. And we slept on camp beds. And then Gary drove back with the empty truck. And we slept on camp beds, and we literally cooked on the Rayburn. There was a Rayburn in the house, and we camped for the remaining, yeah, 5 or 6 weeks until we drove our car out with the animals to
With
Italy.
with the animals. Oh, you had pets
Yeah.
you brought. Okay.
We had really old animals, and at the risk of sounding very, very nasty, we'd sort of held back our dream of moving to Italy, thinking that they would tootle off and,
Oh,
pass away peacefully, but they refused to do that. So in the end, we decided that we would just take them all with us, and it would be wonderful. And so when we left on the 15th of December, we drove over with two elderly lurchers and a one-eyed cat.
and two young kids.
No, Archie came in the car with us, and we sent Tabby on an aeroplane with her granddad because,
Oh, okay. That's
yeah, she doesn't like to be enclosed or told what to do. So even at that young age, we sent her in a different way.
okay. That sounds fantastic. Well, an adventure anyway. So you got
Yeah.
to Italy, and so what are the what attract like what's the pros and cons of living in Italy now? Like in Tuscany, would you go back to the UK?
I wouldn't go back to the UK. I do go back to the UK to see family. I couldn't live there.
Mm.
Um, and you do hear stories of people that live overseas and it doesn't work out, and so they move back to England. But there's nothing brighter. There's no brighter future in England than anywhere, in my opinion. If you run out of money, find some work.
Mm.
Doesn't matter. If I was back in the UK and I needed to find some work, then I have to get off my backside and do it. If I'm in Italy and I need to find some more work, I have to get off my rear end and do it. There does seem to be a slight, uh, from in my opinion only in the UK, that people feel that they are stuck. They are stuck without a job, or they are stuck in a job they hate, or they are stuck. Well, you're never actually stuck anywhere unless there are serious circumstances involved.
Mm.
But actually, it's down to you have to make ends meet and you have to build a future for yourself. And with enough hard work and enthusiasm, it's pretty possible.
Okay, so you had some clients in your PR business that you could still service
Yeah.
as such while you were over there, and then you actually started a business in Italy, didn't you? You started a horticultural landscaping business. You have now, isn't it?
Yeah. We still have the PR business in the UK. Art House PR is still going. We still have British clients and we have Italian clients. And our job is to get them sort of recognition in the glossy magazines. And when we first moved to Italy, we were very, very upfront with our clients. We said, we are moving to Italy, but you will still have your monthly meetings. And also we used some freelance writers and PR people as well that had a good relationship with the clients. So they weren't far away if they needed to go and see them. I did up the ante on the communication front. So before in England, I was probably speaking to the clients maybe every 10 days. When I came to Italy, I was speaking to them every 3 or 4 days because I didn't want them to feel that they were neglected, because they certainly weren't.
Okay, and you didn't. It wasn't like you had a big corporate company. You didn't have like
No,
billions of clients. You had like a few key clients that
we had
actually.
about eight clients, I think, at that time. And, in all fairness, probably two or three of them over time felt uncomfortable. They weren't happy. They wanted someone local, and so they bit the dust. But those clients were replaced with other clients who actually were probably of the right thinking, but they didn't matter. It didn't matter where I'm based. It's the service that I provide,
Yeah.
and that's more than good enough, hopefully. And in their opinion, they don't mind that at all. They
Yeah.
do threaten to come and visit all the time, but that's okay.
Well, once you get the job done for them, they're
Yeah.
happy. So you keep them happy. And I
I,
suppose
I do.
you're.
I do go back to the UK every 6 to 8 weeks. I take a really short flight, which is, maybe 3 days. I go back and see the client, because there's nothing like face-to-face meetings.
Yeah.
But they don't need me to. It's just something that makes me feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. So, as I say, you are now like a multi-passionate entrepreneur, as I like to call people, because you have your PR business, which is ticking along and probably
Yeah,
paying
good.
the rent and,
Yeah.
keeping things, keeping the wolf from the door. And then
Yeah.
you have your landscaping business, which you run in Italy. And
Yeah,
tell us about
that's
that.
quite well. I've always loved plants and gardening. It's one of the reasons I love Italy so much, because the sunshine and the heat. Um, the climate is so different that the plant life is so different. I did go back to college and study horticulture when Tabitha was a baby, because I felt I should get some, I don't know, some real background and gritty information, even though I've always been a keen gardener and I like to be creative. So I did that and I studied with the Royal Horticultural Society in the UK before we left for Italy. And for the last 3 years, I've been designing gardens and landscaping in Tuscany, for all sorts of different clients, mostly foreign clients. So they want an English-speaking garden designer, and there aren't that many of us. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's a bag of fun. quite stressful, but it's good fun.
So you've actually tapped into the expat community to actually develop your business on location because they want somebody who's English speaking. All right.
Yes, there are in Tuscany. There are quite a few properties owned by stranieri, strangers, as they'd be called in Italian, which means that they're foreign. But
Okay.
they don't live here all the time. And in all fairness, they don't understand the climate. And it's very different in different parts of Tuscany. Some is alpine and some is Mediterranean. And you can't just have a Tuscan garden and expect it to survive. Many people don't realize the water does run out. Even if you're on the mains water, it can run out.
Oh.
So these considerations need to be taken into account. You know, last summer we had not one drop of rain for, I think it was 4 months.
Wow. Okay.
This year is completely different, but there are many things that somebody that doesn't live here permanently would never think of. And that's where we can sort of bridge that gap, really. We can talk to them in their native language and explain the issues, you know,
Uh-huh.
and slightly educate them of what's possible and what's not possible. And then over the time, we've got up some great contacts with local artisans, local suppliers, some brilliant gardeners, fantastic craftsmen, and we've built this wonderful rapport and database with people that can sort of do all the bits bobs that need doing in the garden.
Okay. What's the name of your business or what's your website? Just to...
It's Bella Terra Garden Design, which means beautiful earth or
Oh,
beautiful grass.
okay. So I'll put that link on. Actually, just did you speak Italian before you went over to Italy? Did you?
Gary spoke a bit of Italian because he'd lived here years ago temporarily whilst he was working here. But we hired because it was very important for us to have some knowledge. We hired a tutor who came to our house once a week for 10 months. And she'd spend half an hour with Archie, he was about 6 then, and she'd been playing football with him and doing counting games and stuff that was fun for him, so that he was starting to recognize some words. And then she did like an hour and a half with us in the evening. But in fairness, we were absolutely shattered because we'd been working all day. We were packing up to move house. We were organizing everything. So we would sit there with these huge eyes. And then we'd have to lie that we'd done our homework because we hadn't done our homework. And I'd be thinking of excuses of why I hadn't done my homework. And it was like being back at school, but it did help. And she was wonderful. Sylvia was a fantastic tutor. And she certainly gave Archie the confidence he needed to, utter his first Italian words.
So are you now fluent in Italian or are the
No,
kids? Okay.
I speak Italian badly. I can speak in the present tense. I can't speak in the future tense or the past tense. My Italian is functional and slightly random. Gary can speak Italian in a functional way without the randomness, and both children are completely fluent.
Wow. So the kids have picked it up, no problem. And they're what, 13 and 8, are they? Yeah.
Uh,
Is that right?
8, yeah.
Yeah.
Archie will be 13 next month. But yeah,
Okay.
so he's in his last year of middle school here, and Tabitha is going into her 4th year of elementary school.
And what is the school system like over there? Do you find it good or is it similar to the
It's
UK?
different. I think everything in this, I can't talk about Italy as a whole because the different areas of Italy are so changeable. But in Tuscany, there are pros and there are cons to most things compared to England or compared to the region of England I lived in Devon. But overall, the views are better and so is the food and so is the wine. But the schooling system is completely different. If a child falls over and smashes its knee, the teacher will pick it up and kiss it and hug it until it's okay, and that's not possible in the UK anymore. There is a lot more, it seems more caring over here. The link between the family and the teachers is much stronger. So you would go and have coffee with the teacher and talk about the problems and things in a relaxed manner. There are things that are lacking and bizarre over here, but we had the bad experience of Archie schooling in the UK. We felt that the kids had become numbers. We had many instances where people didn't really show any interest in the individual personalities of the children, particularly in the school that Archie was in. Here it's very different. Mostly good, but there are some areas which are lacking. The kids learn English at school and they don't learn exceptionally good English because they're learning from an Italian. So, you know, it's the same as when I was at school, I learned French from a Welsh woman.
Right, okay. Well, your kids don't need to learn English, so you're okay.
Yeah, but for the Italian children, it's pretty important that they learn to speak English you know.
Yeah.
Overall, the schooling is utterly different. They go in the mornings from 8:15 till 1:15. You have a flexible schooling system where you can choose if your kids go full-time or part-time, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, wow.
You know, the grandparents are involved a lot more, but that's a whole cultural thing. So when we pick our children up from school at lunchtime, 70% of the kids picking up their children are grandparents because the family acts as one extended unit at all times.
Wow, yeah. I found that in Italy as well whenever I'm over there. It's Sunday is a big family day where they all get together for a big meal, and you know, it's lovely. It's a lovely part of the culture. It's so family orientated and that. So okay, so the school system, you can actually finish at 1:30, and then do they go back in the afternoon, or is that it?
No. If you sign up your children to go full time, they'll have lunch at school. And then they're meant to do their homework in the afternoons under some supervision. But generally speaking, they don't get it all done because they're having a bit of a laugh.
Right, okay.
That's my personal experience anyway. Or they finish at lunchtime and then they come home and they do their homework at home and then they do their out-of-school activities. The one thing that is taken a lot of getting used to is that schools here do not include sport or anything additional which might happen at schools in the UK or in England. So Archie does all his sport outside of school, and so does Tabby, and the music, such as, you know, guitar lessons and things like that, that's all happens outside of school.
Oh, okay. And so how is your lifestyle over there now? What's give us a typical day? A typical Sharon day.
A typical Sharon day would start with one of us shouting at the dog. Because we have two crazy dogs. It depends on the season. It's really seasonal. At the moment, the children are on holiday. They've been on holiday since the middle of June, and we're now starting August. So an average day for us, we get up super early, well, not super early, quite early, because one of us will be going to work in a garden, and it's nearly 40 degrees here at the moment. So we want to get as much work done as possible in the morning. So we'll be up at 5:36. Dogs will be out. One of us will go off to do some garden maintenance or something. The other one will be at their desk. We tend to sort of do split shifts, Gary and I, between us. One of us will be at our desk. I try and put in 5 hours work every morning. Okay, so I try and do 5 hours at my computer or 5 hours out at a garden. One of us is always here for the children, unless we need to nip out very quickly because Archie's quite big. And the typical day would be the children would get up about 9 because it's summertime, and they will slowly eat, very slowly, like tortoises eat. And then we try and get them to do an hour's homework. And then after that, depending on how hot it is, we're very lucky. They're out and about in the garden, out and about in the countryside, on their bikes, on the trampoline, playing badminton, harassing neighbours, going swimming at friends' pools. It's all about being outside when it's not too hot. And then when it is too hot, they'll come in and they'll read books or watch films. But on a sort of, you know, so in the afternoons we do less work. I suppose our rhythm is that Gary and I will sort of do a couple of hours work in the evening as well. So we probably do 5 hours in the morning, then 2 or 3 hours in the evening. But the afternoons are pretty much, it's very hot and we just, you know, relax, chill out. Mm-hmm. If it's a school day, then everybody's up and out, nice and early. Children go to school, we go to work, both of us, for the long morning. And then we mostly always have lunch together. And then they do their homework and we do our computer work in the afternoon. We're eating together, going to the beach together, enjoying stuff that, you know, that's not expensive, because the things that we enjoy doing don't cost a lot of money anyway. So life is, you know, we have a huge vegetable garden and the children get paid to water the veg and to bring down the tomatoes and all that stuff. And mostly they come back muddy and covered in water because they've had a water bite and stood all over the veg. But no, so it's simple things that are nice and good fun.
Okay, so you're living the good life as such.
It's not the Tuscan dream. It's bloody hard work, but the view is fantastic, and the things that matter, don't break the bank. And our children are growing up with is a life that is fairly idyllic, even if they don't realise it now. When they're grown ups, I hope they'll look back and realise that this was for all of us.
And what about social life? Do you have a social life?
No, we stay on the hill on our own. No, that's not true at all. Um, Gary's very sporty, and he always has been, and so we have to keep our personalities. We're still Brits, and so he joined the local rugby club because he's always played rugby. He actually qualified as a rugby coach here in Italy to teach children, anyway, to teach the youngsters. So for 2 or 3 years, he's been coaching the sort of younger players at the local rugby club at Siena. And so we made great friends through sport, great friends through school, because obviously when you've got children, they make friends themselves and then you meet up with parents. We've developed a really nice group of friends, but they are, 99% Italian because we didn't really move to Italy to be surrounded by other people that have, left England.
Okay. And so just one final thing then. What sort of, how does the costs compare in Italy? Like, how much is it to rent a house in Italy? Okay. How much is it to buy vegetables compared to the UK, let's say?
Okay, it's actually very changeable depending on the region. Where we live is not that cheap because it's a sought after region. It's very beautiful. We ended up here by chance. But our house, what we pay for our rental here is cheaper than what we paid in the UK. I would say, I'm not embarrassed to say we pay €800 a month for a 3-bedroom, pretty nice house in Tuscany.
Yeah, and it's a big house with a big garden as well.
Yeah, with a huge garden. We've got separate vegetable gardens, massive. It's really lovely. We've got a huge outside dining area. So the rental prices, to the north of England would probably be very high because my mother-in-law lives in the north of England. She says, oh, it's a lot of money. But compared to what we were paying in Devon, it's not a lot of money at all. Maybe we would have paid a lot more. The utility bills are variable. It's quite costly, some of the gas bills, because there's a bit of a monopoly. We don't have the choice that you have in the UK. In the UK, you can switch around your suppliers. Here, there's very few suppliers. In some respects, Tuscany is where the UK was maybe 20, 25 years ago.
Right.
But other things, food, drink, other things are ridiculously cheap. Wine, for example, it's very, very well priced. We'll go and buy local wine from the vineyard, 2 minutes in the car, and we'll buy 5 litres of red wine for €7.
5 litres for €7. Oh my God.
Yeah, but you don't want to drink that all the time because you will end up with no teeth. But
and a very sore head.
Yeah, exactly. Silly things are, we can go and buy some fantastic cheese, some wonderful meat. I'm vegetarian and so is Tabby, but the men aren't. They make up for that. Some great, salami, some fantastic pecorino, a bottle of local wine, and you've got your lunch for 4 people. Of course, the kids don't have the wine. 4 people for under €5.
Wow.
So things that would seem unattainable in the UK are very attainable here. And we try and build in a little bit of that holiday feeling in every single day. We have a glass of wine in the garden in the evening. We'll walk the dogs and look at the vineyard because you don't know if you're going to get mowed down by a truck tomorrow. I don't see the point in the long term of living for your next holiday. That seems to be crazy. I think you should try and build a bit of what you love from your holidays into your everyday life.
Wow, that's a lovely idea, and you're living it. You're living the dream, and you didn't, as I say, have to wait to win the lotto to actually do it. You're actually doing it. Okay, so just if somebody was thinking of doing what you did, like upping shop and moving to Italy, what would you advise, or what would you do differently now, or did you do it all right? If
I would always say have a contingency pot of money. You don't know if your car is going to go off the side of a cliff. You don't know if your elderly dogs, are going to continue living for another 4 years expensively. Okay. The bigger contingency pot of money you've got for emergencies, the better. Being informed, the more informed you are, will take away a huge amount of stress. So, for example, when we'd been in Italy, oh God, I don't know, not very long, but Tabby decided to throw herself off the back of the sofa and headbutt the floor hard. And these are all stone floors here. And so, we've done endless trips to A&E, but being informed about how systems work, being informed about what you'll need when you turn up at A&E, you'll need to have a medical card. The more, knowledge is crucial. The more knowledge you have, the better. And having a little pot of money aside will release the stress should you have any emergency. Because actually, no matter where you live, there will be everyday emergencies. There will be car crashes. There will be ill animals. There will be children throwing themselves off bicycles when doing one potato, two potato. These things continue wherever you are. And so, money doesn't buy you happiness, but having enough for the emergencies will certainly reduce the stress.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, well, thank you, Sharon. And just give us the name of your website again of your...
Okay, well, the garden design website is Bella Terra Garden Design, and we have a blog that you can look at, which we don't have a website, we have a blog which tells you bits and pieces about what we do, where we do them. And Art House PR is our PR company based in the UK. And I'm sure I can supply you with the details later. But Bella Terra Garden Design and Art House PR. And really, I think you can live anywhere and do anything if you are stubborn enough.
That's your key, is it?
Yeah,
be stubborn.
Absolutely. Stubborn and enthusiastic, and make everybody around you believe that you can do it, and you will.
Oh, perfect. Well, thanks very much, Sharon. And if you want to read Sharon's interview that we've just done and get details of her site and also tips to moving to Tuscany, do go to lifeisshortmagazine.com and you'll sign up there. It's a free magazine and you can read all about it there. You can also listen to the audio of this as well as you go along in your car, so do download the podcast as well. So I'm Rosie and thank you very much, Sharon, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, Rosie, thank you very much, and good luck to anybody wanting to do something as crazy as move to Tuscany. It's worth it.
Great.